to the Big Apple School podcast. My name is Ken.
My name is Natалья.
And today we're going to talk about social problems.
We have such a serious question today.
Yes, and a very heavy one.
Yeah, I think that all countries have social problems.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that our listeners are eager to listen to what we have to say about this topic.
Okay, let's try.
So go ahead.
Let's start with corporal punishment. Do you think that it's acceptable for parents to use corporal punishment as a means of discipline?
All right. Before I answer your question, for the benefit of some of our listeners who may not be familiar with this term, when you say corporal punishment, it involves hitting someone, or in other words, physical punishment. When it comes to your question, well, I have more of a conservative view in a way, and I would say a bit traditional because, to be honest with you, I was raised by my grandmother, who was totally strict.
Wow.
And I was used to this kind of punishment because the thing is, I grew up with my cousins and we were all boys, all three of us.
Wow.
So you can just imagine, raising three boys.
Yes.
Who always fought with each other, who were, pointing at each other, who's going to do this household chore, who's going to do that. And we always argued about food, about toys. So
the main purpose of corporal punishment is to control behavior.
Right. Now, you might have a different point of view about this, but in my case, so I just want to say that I think somehow it is necessary. But of course, I'm not saying that you have to be, you have to use this all the time. This should be the last resort when everything doesn't work. Because of course, parents can talk to their children first to calm them down, make them realize that what they did is wrong. But the problem sometimes is, this doesn't work for certain kinds of children, and the only thing or the only language they understand is the language of, I hate to say this, but physical punishment. So in our case, oh God, I still remember my grandmother, she would take a belt or a stick, or she would just smack us. And what I hated about that, even though I wasn't, of course I was against it, because I mean, come on, what kind of a child would want to, hurt himself or herself? But, it's interesting how after so many years, I don't have any grudges towards my grandmother. I totally respect her. And somehow I am thankful that she did that, because it made us realize that what we did was wrong. And at the time, to be honest with you, I really think that it was necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have behaved ourselves, and probably we would end up being, criminals today, especially my two other cousins, because they were very naughty. But what is your point of view on this one?
It's a very controversial issue, and some people or some parents can say that it's an effective way of controlling the behavior, but hitting may actually increase misbehavior. And the more parents spank children for behavior, the more rebellious behavior increased.
I somehow agree with that because my cousin, the second one who followed me, I think he's a product of this, because he grew to become numb with the pain, and he even became more rebellious, because for him it didn't make sense why he had to be punished physically. So I think it harmed his psychology somehow. I'm just thankful that I wasn't that naughty of a kid, because I still listen to my grandmother. It's just my grandmother's, I don't want to say like a crazy woman, but she was somehow like that. Now,
it can create different kinds of side effects. And also hitting can teach children that it is acceptable to hit others who are smaller or weaker.
it kind of sends them the wrong message as well, because it's at the end of the day, it's still a form of, I would say, violence. And when they grow up, they might also carry it with them, and they're gonna do it to other people, especially weak ones, not just with their friends, even with their spouses.
Yes, right. Everything depends on the situation, on people who are involved.
Absolutely.
And everybody decides by themselves.
Right. But I'm curious though, when you were growing up, as a child, did you ever experience corporal punishment from your parents?
No, never.
Fortunately, yeah. So you must have been a really good child.
No. But my parents tried to discuss these situations with me, but actually I was a quiet child.
Okay. So you did not misbehave. Wait, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother.
Older or younger?
Younger. Younger brother, and he was punished.
Corporal or what?
Yeah, in this way. Yeah, just light spanks. But
I wonder though, you're a mom, right?
Yes, right.
How many children do you have?
I have one child. It's my son, but now he's 22.
Well, of course, he's old enough now to be punished.
Yeah, but also I tried not to hit him, but once.
You did it.
Yeah, I did it, and I remember it. I still remember it, but my son doesn't remember, really.
What did he do wrong that ended up with you somehow hitting him?
He spoiled the sofa.
Oh, okay. How old was he then?
How old? I don't remember exactly, but maybe 5 or 6 years old.
That's why he can't remember, because he was too young.
Maybe, but I remember. And
did you? How did you feel after that?
I was so sorry, and
you don't think that he deserved it, or so you felt guilty somehow?
Yeah. I felt guilty, and it was just a sofa. It was just a thing, and
maybe it was a spur of the moment, because sometimes you're carried away by emotion, right?
Yeah, right.
So it wasn't really intentional. It's not like you planned to do it.
No, of course not. Yeah.
And speaking of which, I'm single. I don't have children of my own, but that's a very interesting question. Will I ever use this, in the future, if ever I have my own kids? I'm not quite sure, but I may have grown being beaten by my grandmother, because, by the way, just a bit of a background. I didn't, grow up with my mother, because she had to fly to, she had to work in Japan, so she had to provide for the family. So I was left to the care of my grandmother. Now, if I were to become a parent someday, I don't know if I could use such. I don't know. Yeah,
it's easy to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you are in this situation, who knows? What is better? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about schools? Should teachers use corporal punishment as a means of discipline?
Well, I want to hear from you first, because I'm going to tell you something, like a real experience of mine. And then I don't want to surprise you, but what about you? Really, sincerely, do you think teachers should discipline students with corporal punishment?
No, I think that it isn't acceptable.
Right.
In the past, school used corporal punishment, but then it was banned. Yeah, and I think that it creates worse academic achievements and unwelcome learning environment.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't work.
I wish I hadn't experienced that. So you see, it gives you the idea that, yeah, I had experienced it in my primary school in the Philippines, in the village before we moved to Manila for high school, because that's where I studied or took up my high school. But in primary school, my goodness, we had teachers who were, they terrorized us.
Really?
They were so scary. They were very strict. I remember I had this subject. It's reading. So we had homework. But then I was really, I was so nervous because when I opened my notebook and I didn't see any answers, oh my God, I forgot. Oh my God. And then the teacher started calling names. Okay, for those of you who haven't done your homework, please form one line to the right.
Wow.
And then he got her stick and one by one, she hit us.
Was it allowed in the school?
It was a common practice back then. And so I was one of those, students who was hit. And there was even another one, not exactly hitting, but, oh God. No, it wasn't me. It was another, student. He was pinched. So with his ear and what was the problem there? Because he was caught talking with his seatmate. And absolutely, you're not allowed to speak to your seatmate when the teacher is talking. And there was also, oh my God, this might shock, our listeners, but
It's awful.
there were 3 boys. They accused one teacher of being a liar. I don't know first, what the reason was, but they said something to the effect that the teacher was a liar. However, this was brought up to the attention of the teacher. So she found out about it. She called for the 3 students to come in. She asked them to write 100 sentences telling, what did they write? Like, Mrs. blah, blah, blah. I don't remember her surname. Mrs. blah, blah, blah is not a liar. So 100 sentences. And then after writing those sentences, she crumpled the paper. She asked the student to open their mouth and chew it. Yeah, it sounds, well, I know it's ridiculous. It's, mind-blowing that such things could happen, but it happened.
Yeah.
But am I for corporal punishment? No. But to be honest with you, when I was in the Philippines, when I became a high school teacher, I thought to myself, life is so unfair because now I really wanted to smack my students.
Really?
At the time, yeah, because, it's just spur of the moment. I was angry because, they did something naughty. So I was so mad. And then suddenly it was a flashback of my childhood. I thought, life is so unfair. When we did something wrong, back then we were, punished physically. But now I can't even punish them. This is so unfair. But it doesn't mean, of course, that, I advocate for corporal punishment. No, because I wish I didn't have to, experience that because really it's so embarrassing. It's, it breaks your confidence as well.
Yeah. And it's create low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And maybe school phobia.
Yeah. That's why there were days when I didn't want to go to school.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. And let's now talk about another problem, vices.
Yeah. By the way, let's define it first. This refers to illegal and immoral activities that may include drugs, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, and what causes drug and alcohol addiction? What do you think? What reasons?
Well, drug and alcohol addiction. I think some people don't know how to handle their problems well. And, for me, they see it as an escape from all of their worries in life.
Yes, right.
It's a temporary break from depression. It's a way to, run away from their problems and somehow feel a bit of joy, even though it doesn't last forever. Because after drinking and after using drugs, your problems will still be there. Yeah. And partly, I would say that it's also the influence of the people around you.
Yeah.
I would say, for example, with friends, especially, I'm not saying all teenagers, but I would say the problem of alcohol, sometimes it's because of the circle of friends that you have. Not just your friends, even in your family. So, for example, if you have an alcoholic father, you will be influenced as well. So, a lot of factors. So those are some that I can think of. What about you?
There are many reasons why some people start abusing drugs or alcohol, and every case is unique, of course, maybe some people want to escape or mask pain,
very
because
well said.
of health problems, and using drugs can provide temporary solace. From suffering, but it's just temporary.
It doesn't really solve the problem.
Yes, right. Okay. Next, I think the most important reason is relationship problems.
Yeah. They're not able to, they don't know how to deal with their relationship.
Yes, right.
It's so sad because they have to turn to such things in order to lift themselves up, when in reality they're only doing more, or worse for themselves by turning to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, right. And depression, stress, and it starts with simple recreational use. Just one time experiment, maybe, trying something new. But then it becomes frequent and a necessity.
And it becomes an addiction because the person does it repeatedly. How can we help people with addiction problems?
If you want to help, you should focus on building trust.
Right.
Support and be honest with this person, and you need to talk with these people
sincerely, with an open mind.
Right. And addiction is not a choice that an individual can control.
True.
It's a compulsion.
Right.
And so these people can't stop using, abusing, and they can't control it. So they need help.
Absolutely. There's a problem with their psychology, and so we need to approach them with an open mind. Do not judge them, because, the problem sometimes with other people in society, the moment they know that you are an alcoholic or a drug user, they see you, they rebuke you, and they think, oh my God, you're such a bad person. And that's
criticize,
it. Without even trying to understand, where is this person coming from? How did he end up abusing such, things like alcohol and drugs? So I think more than our judgment on them, they need help. And one way to do that is, I guess, to spend time to them, to really talk to them sincerely.
Yes, you're right.
And try to give them options of how they can improve or change their lives. Because really, this is not an easy problem. One sit-down meeting isn't enough. It's gonna take sessions.
Yes, right. And a lot of specialists should work with such people.
All right.
What about next social problem? It's homelessness.
Well,
I think it's the biggest problem in all countries,
in my country, for example, I think we have a serious problem of this one, especially in the cities. To be honest with you, I feel very bad for them, because this is kind of similar to the vices that we mentioned earlier. sometimes people end up in the streets not because, they wish to live in the streets. I don't think so.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What do you feel when you see homeless people? Do you have some judgment on them, or?
I try not to judge them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I feel a mixture.
Mm-hmm.
I have a mixture of feelings, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and but I think that a lot of people try not to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Try to
not
ignore
to notice them. Yeah, and and how do you feel?
But so are you? You said mixed emotions. Emotions of what? Like you feel sorry?
Yeah, I feel sorry, and I feel angry maybe because there are a lot of opportunities in our world.
Right.
Why they stop using it, stop trying something?
Right. In my case, I have a soft spot for them in my heart because I would like to believe that a lot of the homeless people that we find in the streets, they end up there not because they wanted to, but for some unfortunate event or series of unfortunate events, they ended up, outside. One of them is psychological problem, maybe. I mean, not everyone is born strong mentally, psychologically, and so they don't know how to deal with their problems. And that's why, they end up using, with vices, drinking alcohol or smoking or even drugs. And then they lose their property or whatever they have.
Yeah.
And then they end up in streets. I feel very bad for them. Even though if you say, for example, why should you feel bad for them? They wasted their money.
Yeah,
they were
right.
irresponsible. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, nobody's perfect, but maybe they needed somebody around to help them. Maybe they didn't have the right people in their circle to somehow guide them, to support them. Because I don't think there's anyone out there who wished to live in the streets.
Of course.
Who would want to stay outside in winter? Who would want to, beg for money? I don't know, but this is how I feel.
Do you give money?
Yeah,
if they ask?
Speaking of which, I want you to answer first before I give you my answer.
No, I don't give money to
Why not?
these people because I think that it won't help them. I can't give them a lot of money, yeah, and but that money which I give them, they spend on alcohol, maybe
cigarettes.
Yeah, right. And I'd prefer to give some food,
Right.
maybe clothes, and something like this.
Wow, that's nice. That's very nice of you. Because in my case, before I used to give money, but then again, I had some doubts because I don't know where they use the money for. So these days, I just try to provide them with food. And sometimes, some of them, they just need someone to talk to because they have nobody else to speak to about their problems.
Yeah.
I remember this elderly man, I guess 2 months ago, here in Novosibirsk.
Really?
He in fact approached me and my friend. He just, at first he asked, do you have any coins, just a little change? And then I told my friend, because, I don't really speak Russian. So I told my friend, can you ask him, is it possible to just give him, some food? Because I don't have cash now. And you know what? He was so, his mood changed. He suddenly became somehow happy. And so I took him to one cafe and I told him, okay, whatever you want to eat, just tell me, I will buy it for you. And you know what? He was so scruffy, dirty looking, but he extended his hand to offer a handshake, and I did it as well. Because,
really?
Yeah, I feel so sorry for him because he's an elderly man. I wonder what happened to his family. Why did he end up in the streets?
So kind of you.
I don't know. If only I were rich, I would provide help for them, not just in terms of food or clothes, but if only I could be a part maybe of an organization to train them. Maybe they have some hidden talents that they can, invest in so that they can use it as a means of, earning money.
Yeah, and I think that government should do more work to provide services to get more people off the street. Yeah, and when I was preparing for our discussion, I tried to find out the rate of homeless people in Russia, and its official number is 64,000 people.
Wow.
But it's only official number. But there is another information, and almost 5 million.
Wow. Is that true?
I don't know, because there is uncertainty about this number of people who are homeless. And I think government doesn't notice this problem.
Is there anything that the government is doing at the moment to somehow, reduce the...
Yeah, maybe. I know that there are some shelters for such people, but I don't know exactly.
I see. Well, I do hope that it will be addressed, and not just by the government, but in our own small ways.
Yeah.
By, giving whatever help we can extend to them. All right. Let's talk about equality. I just wonder, do you think that minorities should be given priority because of their race? I know, I'm not sure if this is an issue in Russia, but of course, in America, for example, in the West, the differences between white people, the black, or, even brown, whatever.
Yeah. I think that what is important, it's the qualification of a person, and it doesn't matter what is his or her nationality. Yeah, and
it's good that you pointed that out, because although this is a huge issue in the West, but for me, I think that does it really matter that your skin is like this, you're of a certain color? I totally agree with you. It should be about qualifications. This is, we're not, hiring people on the basis of their skin color, but more on what they can bring to the table,
of course,
what's their experience and their knowledge, and of course the skills. Yeah. Because I don't think it would be fair, for example, and no disrespect, for example, to minorities like Black people, like, okay, we're only going to hire Black people because we want them to have the opportunity to lead a company. What about, for example, other races or other nationalities who are more than capable, who can bring more, better changes to, let's say, a company? Wouldn't it be unfair for them that they're more qualified, but you chose a minority simply because you want to be politically correct?
Right, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and what are some things people can do to eliminate discrimination?
It's going back to the idea of hiring based on qualifications. I don't know how true it is that perhaps there are racist people. They exist, but especially if we're talking about the field of work, they should be hired according to what qualifications they have.
Yes, right. And I think that people should teach their children to treat other people equally.
Right.
Yes.
It starts from home.
Yes, of course.
With what your parents, not just parents, even teachers are teaching, in schools for the children to understand that we are all in equal footing. Nobody's, it doesn't even matter how rich you are.
Yes.
We're all human beings, and therefore we deserve, the same rights and privileges.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for today. So this has been the Big Apple School podcast. Thanks for listening to our topic today, which is all about social problems. We'll see you again next time.
Goodbye.